Hi there Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video, and welcome to episode 136 of Ask Boss Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday, where I take your questions from the comment section below and do my very best to answer them. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured, leave your question in the comment section below and hopefully I'll get round to answering that question. If you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to drop a like down below because that really helps the video and the channel. And with all that being said, let's get straight on to the first question. Mando Brunt says, hi BB, question for next week. Are you a fan of the Rogue One non-TVC 3.75 inch Stormtrooper? They are only 5p away, but a bit more detailed than something from the retro collection. I think these are great for army building, which I'm big into. Interested to know how many Imperial Stormtroopers you have. Looking forward to the next live feed. So I do like that figure because the helmet on that figure was absolutely amazing. So good, in fact, that they used it for the Rogue One Stormtrooper in the vintage collection. Really, really good sculpt, that one. I'm not a massive fan of 5p away figures, especially with troopers, because, you know, you can't really bend the elbows for a start, which is one of the main things that you really want to be able to do with a Stormtrooper. I completely respect people that like the 5p away figures. They're just not for me. Now, in terms of how many I have, I did buy a couple of the 4-packs. I had a couple on single card and various other ways of getting Stormtroopers these days. I've probably got around 20 of the Rogue One Stormtrooper sculpt, if you like, and this is the most recent one. This is the one that came with the holster on his leg and on the Star Wars card, and the review for that is on the channel. Luke Fernley says, question for next week. In recent months, it's felt like as if prices of the vintage collection figures have rapidly increased from what they once were. Do you think we as fans can push back against this to get more affordable prices, or will this just be how things are from now on? It feels exhausting to have figures like an Astromech re-release for the same price as a newly tooled figure and then have Dark Troopers for £30 plus. 100%, and I totally agree with you. And Wayne from Star Action Figures put a big post about this on his Facebook group. And at the end of the day, I think what it is really is that in the UK, they don't really do the conversion properly. So from my understanding, the new Obi-Wan figures, the newly tooled Obi-Wan figures in the US are selling for $12.99, maybe $13.99. But over here, I think they're like $15.99 or $16.99. So not only are they going up, but also the conversion, the currency conversion isn't correct, because really they should be about the same price really. So I think that's definitely something that Wayne is bringing up with Hasbro UK and Hasbro Europe, and I think they took his comments seriously and they're going to be looking into it hopefully. So hopefully there'll be some more news on that. But yeah, in general, prices are going up because obviously prices of shipping is going up, the fuel, everything is going up, the prices that the people in the factories are charging is going up, so everything's going up, and unfortunately it's always the customer that gets hit with the bill. Christopher Barton says, hey boss, question for next week. If Hasbro decides to do an update of the TIE Fighter pilot, do you think there would be a chance for us to get a TVC Inferno squad from Battlefront 2? So the second part of that is yes. I mean, at the end of the day, if there was a new TIE Fighter pilot, then I'm pretty sure that they could make an Inferno squad out of that figure. For me, the TIE Fighter pilot is one of the figures that really needs an update. Like, out of any of the figures that we do have, that is one that really, really does. If you think about it, it doesn't even have an ankle joint whatsoever. No articulation on the ankle at all. And I just think that's one that definitely needs to be redone. It also needs to be released on an Empire Strikes Back card as well. So there's all sorts of reasons why we could do with a new TIE Fighter pilot. A 4-pack as well, they could do that. Once they've got that figure out there, stick him in a 4-pack. I'm sure people would buy it. CBZ says, awesome video, Bossk. I have a quick question for next week, but also something I'd like your thoughts on. For the question, what are your dream TVC figures? Mine would be a Revenge of the Sith, Anakin and Obi-Wan with the new articulation and face sculpting and photo real. I think they'd be among the best in the whole line. Yeah, I mean, the Anakin figure is definitely one that I think they could improve on. Certainly, I don't think the head sculpt on that figure is at all good. And also, you're right, I mean, Jedi bodies in general could do with the new articulation. But for me, I'm going old school to answer your question. I really would like to see a new C-3PO. It sounds odd, but at the end of the day, we've just got this Stormtrooper on a Star Wars card. Now we need the C-3PO on the Star Wars card. But I don't want them to release that figure on a Star Wars card. That would just be a joke. He's too small. I don't like all the removable panels. He's a dull gold colour. We need this C-3PO here, the one that's in the image. Whether they use vac metal or some other way of doing it, I want a shiny C-3PO on a Star Wars card with that image, and he also has to be scaled properly. That figure is far too short. So there's so many reasons why I'd like a new C-3PO, as well as the rest of the heroes as well from Star Wars. B. Brigman says, great post as always. Question for next week. Given Hasbro's lack of vehicles and beasts and the rising costs, if Jazzwares were to go all in on creating a micro world beyond vehicles to include battle packs, beasts, playsets, etc., would you collect them? Looking forward to next week's Ask Boss Bounty. Thank you for all you do for the fandom. So I am interested in those Jazzwares micro collection or whatever they're called. I think they look great. And I used to like the Micro Machines ones back in the day as well, with all the little mini play sets and all the little heads that opened up to reveal a miniature figure and all that kind of stuff. I used to love all those. However, I'm not going to go out of my way to like pre-order them on a website or anything like that. That's definitely going to be something that I will pick up if I see them in a store. And I don't really go to too many stores very often, and if I did, I'm probably not likely to find them anyway. But that is definitely something that I would like to collect. It looks like there's some really nice models of like TIE fighters and Slave Ones and all that kind of stuff. They do look great. Collector 1970 says, question for next week, do you think that the legacy figures value should go up, considering that there is a rumour that the moulds are now lost forever, meaning we'll never see those figures again? So to be honest, I think that's already started. I think the legacy collection figures have been quite valuable for some time now, and yep, they're going to go up even more. At the end of the day, there are always characters in whatever line that are sort of either mass produced or they're just not popular enough, and those figures aren't really worth anything. You can find, I don't know, like Bail Organa, for example, on the secondary market for not that much money, and his wife as well. They're not worth a lot. But when you look at some of the figures from the end of the Legacy Collection, the ones that came out in about 2009, you've got the Nikto Gunner, you've got Jiran, you've got that Jawa that I'm still after, the one with the little droid. You know, I doubt I'm ever going to get that figure now because it's just too expensive. There's no way I'm paying over, I don't know, £60 for a Jawa. But he's the only one that I need left in that collection. So, but yeah, I think it's already started with the Legacy Collection. There's a lot of desirable figures in there, and they do command a lot on the secondary market. Coach Deborah says, question for next week, do you think we'll get more Kenobi figures? For example, I'd love to see a Padawan Reaver or any of the Inquisitors. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to be getting any more Kenobi figures in terms of mainline newly tooled figures. I have no idea about like any more 3-packs or convention exclusives there may be in the pipeline. But in terms of figures for the mainline newly tooled figures of the Inquisitors, Ned B, things like that, I just don't think we're going to get them. Certainly not this year, certainly not the beginning of next year. Maybe we're going to have to wait another year, just like we're still waiting for figures from the Book of Boba Fett. You know, if you think about characters like Black Chrysanthemum, Cad Bane, characters like that, you know, you would have hoped that they would have come out when the show came out, but they didn't. We just got a Fennec Shand, who was actually from The Mandalorian, and we got that Deluxe Boba Fett. And I think that's it, isn't it? I don't think we've got any others from the Book of Boba Fett, so we're still waiting from that show. So they're always playing catch-up, which is not a good thing. Faceless Enigma 21 says, question for next week, do you think Hasbro will do solo releases of the Elite Squad Trooper and the Phase 2 Purge Trooper? I would like to army build them without buying multiples of 2 to 3 other figures. Yeah, I feel your pain, my friend, but unfortunately, historically, they've never released any of those figures single carded, have they? I'm guessing maybe it'll be a waste of a slot in a wave. So I think our only hope for those is that, you know, maybe they'll do a 4-pack of Purge Troopers or the Elite Squad Trooper, something like that. But I can't see any of those ever being released single carded unless there is a change for some reason. But at the end of the day, we haven't seen it before. We got none of the Skiff Guard single carded, so I just can't see it happening. Aaron Bailey says, question for next week, what kind of army building 4-pack would you want to see from Hasbro next? I love this question, mate, because it really does get me thinking about all the cool things that I would love in the vintage collection, and especially those 4-packs for army building. And I've got 3 of them right in front of you here. So you have got the Death Watch Mandalorian, the Airborne Trooper, or the Mandalorian Super Commando, or the 332nd Ahsoka Clone Trooper. I would take a 4-pack of those guys anytime. Perhaps not so much this one because it does use the skinny clone mold. You've got the Death Watch Mandalorian from the show as well. This guy, he would make a great 4-pack if they changed the rank on each one. So maybe have some with 3 stripes and things like that. But to be honest, if I was going to pick a 4-pack that I would really like right now in the vintage collection, it would be a Rebel 4-pack from Rogue One. Now, for them to do that, they are going to have to create an all-new mold for a Rebel Trooper and release him on a single card, maybe one of the captains or something. But I think they should give us some Rebel Troopers, because if you think about that scene in Rogue One, we've got the Death Troopers, we've got the Shore Troopers, as well in the form of a 4-pack, but they've got nobody to fight against. Who are they going to fight against in a little scene that you want to set up there? You've got Chirrut Imwe, we need Baze. We need some Rebel troopers to go with that. We need Bodhi. And I just don't understand why we haven't got those so far. So for me, if I was going to pick a 4-pack right now, it would be that. Make that figure and then make him with different heads and different pouches and different accessories in a great 4-pack. Starkiller says, brilliant Q&A, Tim. Watched the live stream yesterday. That was a blast. Brilliant guests, of course. Some of the true pillars of the community. Hope you do a lot more of them if you possibly can. I could watch that for hours. Very enjoyable. Thanks, mate. I do plan to do more live streams. Don't you worry. Question for next week. With the SDCC coming up, would you really love to see Hasbro bring back the really cool Hasbro SDCC packs they did for the vintage collection, like Death Star set or the Lost Line set with Jar Jar in Carbonite? I hope to see something like that brought back to SDCC. What would you want Hasbro to make, Tim? Thanks. Wow. I mean, of course, you know, those things are glorious, aren't they? What amazing sets those are for conventions. And I really do think that those convention exclusives should be on more of a grander scale. I think all we can hope for these days is something along the lines of that Emperor's Throne that we got. I would even like them to just go back to a 3-pack like they did with the ARC Trooper 3-pack. That was great because then they released those figures carded later on for people that couldn't get hold of that 3-pack and people that didn't really want the 3-pack. But, you know, 3 newly tooled figures in a 3-pack like that, and then they can release them single carded later on. That would be my pick for a SDCC exclusive. Deathwatch Dude says, question for next week. With the deluxe TVC sets in the vintage collection, Ahsoka, Dark Trooper and Incinerator Trooper, do you think we'll get to see more than just the Mandalorian figures being used for this style of box form, being from Attack of the Clones, etc.? I think we will. I'm not too sure about Attack of the Clones. I think it's likely that we'll see something from the Book of Boba Fett, perhaps. I know we got the Boba Fett himself, but I think we'll see something else for the Book of Boba Fett in terms of one of those boxed deluxe sets. If you think about a character that's really large, I think that's probably the only way that they're going to be able to do that figure. And then obviously we do hope that we'll get something like for the Kenobi series. Maybe that's a way they can do Baby Leia, you know, or Child Leia or whatever, within a pack with Jedi robed Kenobi or something. Maybe that's a way that they can get her out into the line in one of those sort of, I don't know, battle pack stroke deluxe sets. Maybe that's the way they get her out. Just Capsa says, awesome video, boss. Question for next week. Being the Andor TV series is soon to come out with much more episodes, can we expect twice the amount of figures as compared to the Obi series? I would really like to say that's the case, but I don't really think it works like that. And in fact, I think we might even get less figures for Andor than we did for Kenobi. It sounds horrible, doesn't it? Unless there's going to be some kind of, you know, 3-packs and repaints and retools and things like that. I can't see us getting more than 3 or 4 Andor figures before the year is out. Maybe even less than that. If you look at the waves that have come out still, I think there's only one more wave to be announced. I think we've got some pipeline figures that are going to be included in that wave. Head over to yakface.com, look at his list. You'll see what's potentially in that wave. And then there's some missing figures, and maybe they're going to be Andor figures, who knows. But Black Series will probably get 5, 6, 7 from Andor. We'll be on the short end again. We'll probably get 2, 3, hopefully 4, and maybe a 3-pack. You never know. Marky D 1967 says, hey Bossk, here's another question for next week. After watching your preview video on the Figure in Dan wave, it dawned on me that all the figures we've gotten from the Star Wars A New Hope movie have the standard traditional Star Wars racetrack title on the card back, while every other figure has the actual name of the movie or TV series. Is there a reason why Hasbro never went to A New Hope title on the card back for figures from the film and just stuck with Star Wars? Looking back on it now, it seems inconsistent, but for nostalgic reasons, to me, that movie will always be just Star Wars. And I think you've just answered it there in the very end there, in the last sentence there, is that movie to a lot of people is just Star Wars, and it only got called A New Hope later on. And if you're going to be creating the vintage collection and you want to make it as close to the original vintage Kenner figures as possible, then really characters from A New Hope needs to be on those Star Wars chase cards. And I hope they never change it, to be honest. I hope they never do that A New Hope thing, because that would be just weird. Just the same as I wish that they'd never put any other figures on a Star Wars card that weren't in the movie, like those first Gaming Greats ones that we had, Dr. Aphra. They should have had Legends or Expanded Universe, something other than Star Wars, because for me that logo Star Wars should mean that it has to be figures from Star Wars A New Hope. Aaron Spackman says, hi Bossk, question for next week. Do you think with the imminent failure of the Lightsaber HasLab that they may open HasLab up to the rest of the world to order from it? Also, I would love for them to release an Ewok village playset in HasLab for the 40th anniversary. Wouldn't we all, my friend? Wouldn't we all? But in terms of that lightsaber, I do believe that HasLab Lightsaber is available to a lot of the world other than the US and Europe and what have you, because I think Usual Mike said that you can order that in Australia, for example. So that particular one, just like the Razor Crest, has been available to the rest of the world, which is bizarre, isn't it? The G.I. Joe one that's just smashed past its goal, you know, that one I don't think is available to Australia. So there you go. It just shows you, doesn't it? Picking the right items for HasLab is the most important thing, and they have to be dream items. Now, for G.I. Joe fans, that 6-inch tank is like a dream item. The Razor Crest and the Barge were dream items. A lightsaber, and dare I say it, a 6-inch Rancor, they're not dream items. These things, you have to go big, Hasbro, with these HasLab projects. You have to go big, or you have to go something super, super special. So there you go. That's just my take on it. Hopefully they'll do another HasLab for the Vintage Collection. TVCLAB, bring it on, Hasbro. We're ready for another one. So there you go. All right then, guys. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode. If you do have a question for next week's episode, be sure to leave it in the description below and hopefully be featured next week. Please do take your time to watch my recent reviews on the channel. I've reviewed Figuring Dan, these two. This one's coming up. The Stormtrooper is done for my Patreon supporters and channel members and will be released on the channel tomorrow, I believe. So please do check those out if you have time. Thank you all for watching, everybody, and we shall see you on the next one.